What you're hearing is Hardie Fiber Cement Siding living up to its reputation as the siding that helps resist weather damage, no matter what Mother Nature throws its way. James Hardie knows how important a reputation is, especially when you're a home builder. That's why Hardie products withstand the elements better than wood-based siding, with styles to match their strength. Because when home builders work with us, we deliver our best so they can look their best. Protect your reputation with exterior products by James Hardie.
Every team, every topic, everywhere. This is Believe.
This is Sunbelt Commissioner Keith Gill, and I listen to the Funbelt Podcast.
This is the Funbelt Podcast, part of the Believe Network.
Hosts to Dusty Thibodeau of Warhawk Report, Jeremy Harper of Howlraiser, and Shane Metlin of the Daily News Record.
I think it's potentially a very good week for the Sunbelts.
But I'm just kind of going off on a random rant. It's just frustrating. Coach, non-conference game. You got about 3 more before you're in conference play. What have you kind of learned about your team so far?
Yeah, I learned that we could bounce back from a slow start. I learned that these guys can give us the energy and the effort that we need when we demand it out of them. And I learned that we can play through some tough moments, and I thought that we did that today. Way back 9 months ago, it seems like it's a good thing, but then when you watch them on film, you're like, oh man, what did we just get ourselves into? But again, I think it's a great learning lesson for our guys for sure.
Sunbelt Conference action starts.
Yeah.
What do you take out of this, and what have you learned about your team so far?
Yeah, that we've shown different glimpses of, being great in different areas. We've had some great offensive days where our defense drops. We've had a first half against Arkansas where we're beating Arkansas and played great all around. We've had times where we're terrible rebounding the basketball. Second half we're pretty dang good rebounding the basketball against these guys. I mean, to even be in the same neighborhood rebounding the ball, that's a positive, for our team because, I think they're one of the best rebounding teams I've ever faced. And I think, our team, if we play the way we're capable of, we're definitely capable of winning the league. And, I know, again, Arkansas State just beat Memphis, but, I feel like we can definitely beat them if we play to our best level as well. Yeah.
What do you feel is the biggest key or biggest thing that you need to make sure your team does to make sure you're in the front side of that tournament bracket in Pensacola?
Probably first and foremost taking care of the basketball, which we actually did tonight, to have, 12 turnovers. If I could wave a magic wand and had 12 turnovers the rest of the year, we're probably going to win 23, 24 games. Unfortunately, we averaged like 16, 17 turnovers. So our guys did a great job of that. If we, turn it over 18, 19 times, they're going to beat us, 40 plus. So we had to do that. And then, we have to defend at a high level. We got to hold teams to low 40% shooting. We're pretty good. I thought we did a pretty solid job defensively outside of defending Cryer from the three-point line.
There it is, Jeremy. Terrence Johnson, Texas State.
Yeah.
Scott Cross of Troy saying he could beat Arkansas State and win the Sun Belt Conference.
Sure.
It's been a crazy week of basketball once again. I guess that's the biggest story, right, Jeremy, of everything going on? Or do we want to talk about how Shane messed up the Heisman voting?
Is it Shane's fault that we don't have a group of 5 Heisman winner? Is that?
I think so.
Shane, did you do this to us?
I voted for a group of 5.
Oh, okay.
Winner. I mean, I could have been a little dishonest with it, I guess, and not put Travis Hunter in my top 3. Maybe that would have helped. But no, I think both guys had historically great seasons, and most years either one would have been very deserving. But I gave the edge to Ashton Janty. I just thought, doing things that a guy at his position has not done in a long time was worthy of the vote.
Yeah, Janty seemed incredible running back, but how do you not, in the end, with a pure heart not vote for a guy who plays so well on both ends of the ball? I mean, that's like
Easily.
something you never see.
Easily. You just put Genty first. That's how you not vote for it.
This Thanksgiving holiday, why not head to the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting, BetOnline. From the earliest odds to in-game live betting, BetOnline provides you with constant, real-time odds and action and the ability to watch the games as they happen. With the largest selection of odds on anything and everything from football and NBA and college basketball, NHL, that's hockey, to UFC and boxing, BetOnline is your source. Head to the website today and see why BetOnline is America's most trusted site for online wagering. Hey, it's my most trusted site for online wagering, so you know you can trust the site. BetOnline, the game starts here. I'm playing devil's advocate here. I'm trying for a balanced podcast, Tibbs. All right?
More importantly, though, than winning the Heisman for the G5, the Raging Cajuns get to hoist the really big trophy with Kenny Armentes winning the Lou Groza Award. Yes, I was a voter for the Cajun leg cannon of Armentes to give the league its first big award on the national stage.
Yeah, that was really cool. He's a great kicker, a good, from all accounts, a good guy. And what a nice feather in the cap for the Sun Belt. We don't win those type of awards. So good for us.
Shane, did you get a vote in that?
I had a vote, but I will admit that a lot of my, outside of the Heisman, a lot of my award votes didn't get turned in time.
Am I hearing this right, Tibbs? That Shane Metlin just sort of sloughs off his national voting duties. He's too busy. He's too big of a hot shot. Like the Pulitzer Prize has changed him.
There's a lot of emails that come in this time of year.
There are a lot of emails
telling you, such and such is due, or here's the semifinal, or I didn't keep up with them all this year as well as I should have.
All right. Well, you need a secretary. You need some sort of manservant to organize these things for you and make sure that you get the votes on time. Tibbs, how do you keep it organized?
I deal with it as soon as it comes in. I drop everything I'm doing to vote for the Blitnikoff, the Outland, the Ray Guy, the Groza, and every other, the Mackey, every other award that I'm a part of. I drop everything and do it in hopes that by me being a responsible voter for these other awards, that it will one day lead to me being held in high regard to get a Heisman vote.
Well, maybe if maybe your work ethic will somehow inspire Metlin to adopt the same dedication to the craft.
Yeah. If the Heisman people ask me, who do you know in Louisiana? Because I think that's how they do it, is kind of like try to have a certain number of people in each region. If they ask me who I know in Louisiana, Tibbs gets the call.
Is it a word of mouth organization? Like they just sort of call people up. Hey, Metlin, do you know any guys from Louisiana?
Kinda. That's sort of how I ended up doing it. Is legendary Virginia sports writer David Teal.
Oh, okay.
Was kind of like the guy in this part of the country, and somebody dropped out, and he asked me if I wanted to be a Heisman voter, and I said, yeah.
You just sort of emerged from a blanket of empty Scotch bottles and said, yeah, I'll do it. Just give me the email.
Pretty much. Yeah.
See, that's how I imagine sports writers are like, just constantly waking up in odd places, covered in booze bottles, perhaps in the local police precinct.
No, that's just how you are at Media Day, Jeremy.
Not just Media Day, every day.
So Shane, do you get anything cool for being a Heisman Trophy voter?
Last year, this actually came like kind of at a completely random time, but I got like the official program from the ceremony mailed to me.
Oh,
so that was the main piece of swag, I guess.
I think
Not
what's
signed by anybody.
No.
like, wouldn't you get like a Heisman Trophy voter Yeti mug or some
Koozie.
kind of something?
Yeah, something.
But
no.
no,
Medium
no.
T-shirt.
You get none of those. Wow, we're gonna make you a T-shirt, Tibbs. We should make him a T-shirt.
Is that the next thing going in the Funbelt Podcast team store?
We do need a refresh of the team store.
How about we do one where it's vote like Metlin and it's just a bunch of check boxes that are not even checked?
Yeah,
There you go.
totally just ride this wave of disdain for Metlin and his voting habits.
Yeah.
I like it.
I managed to get my AP basketball ballot in every week, though, somehow.
Oh, okay. I noticed to my great dismay that Arkansas State was not even amongst those receiving votes. So, Metlin, I just assume that you've ignored my Red Wolves, even though they've had such epic wins of late.
I didn't ignore it. They're getting into my list of ones I'm considering. Like, people, okay. I don't know if we're totally getting into this whole thing, but, people, it's a pretty arbitrary line to cut it off at 25. There's not a whole lot of difference between the 25th best team in the country and the 50th best team in the country. Like, when you start really breaking down, like, what everybody's resume is and everything, it's a thin line to figure out who you're going to vote for.
There's like 360 teams. So,
Yeah.
Metlin, I mean, this must be like a 5-6 hour process of you just going through statistics, maybe footage, maybe calling some of your colleagues and getting their opinions and pooling facts. I mean, you're really spending a lot of time, right?
I spend a good amount of time on it every Sunday. Like, this is at least making sure I know who beat who and everything else. Like, it's just, I mean, it's stuff like, Arkansas State, for example, like, I give them a lot of credit for beating Memphis, but then I also like kind of barely have Memphis in the top 25. So it's like other people have Memphis a lot higher than I did to begin with. So that ends up factoring into like great win for Arkansas State, but also like I didn't have Memphis being like a top 10 team. So it's only going to bump Arkansas State up so high.
Well, they came back and beat Clemson. That was pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Here's what happens, by the way, Metlin, and you probably know this already because you follow a historically good basketball team. I won Kansas, right? I know that you have a soft spot for Kansas. And then 2, JMU, who's historically good too. So Arkansas State, not historically good at basketball. But here's what I found what happens when your team suddenly becomes good is that you really check in on teams that you've defeated to see if they're doing well too. to like, I don't know if this somehow legitimizes your belief that your team is pretty good. I don't know if you do that, or I know I do. I have long now text conversations with other basketball guys about this, and it's a little snotty. I don't know if I like what I've become.
Yeah, no, I mean, you do. And that's definitely part of like how I end up voting for the AP.
Yeah.
25 too. It has a ton to do. I try to give teams credit for beating good teams, not take too much away if you lose to a good team, especially on the road. And there are a lot of teams that have won a lot of games already this year. And then you look at their schedule and it's like, well, they haven't played anybody. It's like, how do you judge like Oklahoma being 10-0 when they haven't beat anybody good? Like, I like to give teams credit for winning, but then at some point, you got to give the ones that play really good teams credit too.
Tibbs, I have an idea. I'm just going to soft launch this idea cold without any real research or even thought. I'm just going to say the 2 words. Are you ready?
I'm never ready when you frame it like that.
Shane Netlin. Because he's about hoops. He's about the net, right? Shane Netlin.
Okay. No? I didn't even catch that you changed the first letter when you.
Because, talking about nets, talking about hoops, like for hoop season. You're not Shane Metlin, you're Shane Netlin. No?
In other news.
God. It's a T-shirt.
Raging Cajun head coach Bob Marlin not happy with the media questioning his team, sitting with currently 2 wins. I think they are 2-9 currently. I see both sides of it. You got to question why this team has gone from being so competitive and really sitting atop the Sun Belt Conference standings to all of a sudden just not able to get it done against any team regardless. But as Bob Marlin said, what difference does it make? We really haven't played any conference games or meaningful games yet. So why is there this sense of panic? What do y'all think on that?
Well, first of all, Coach Marlin probably hasn't. It's been probably a long time, if ever, that he's been in a position where he has to defend a 2-win record, right? I mean, usually by now, the Cajuns are doing okay or better than okay. They're atop the Sun Belt standings, or at least people are talking about them now. They're breathing the same air as ODU right now, which must be just as toxic an atmosphere as it is in Lafayette right now. So yeah, you know what? It always amuses me when coaches sort of bristle at reporters doing their jobs, which is saying, "Hey, what's wrong with this team? What's the silver lining here? What can fans get happy about because they're kind of used to winning, coach?" And the coach sort of says, "Oh, well, the real season hasn't started yet." Well, I'm sorry, coach. The real season has started, and your team does not look good, and you've got to give your fans something to cling to. Back me up on this, Metlin.
Yeah, well, I mean, first of all, it's not unusual for Bob Marlin to be a little bit grumpy, is it?
Well, yeah, he can be cankerous. Yeah.
Some answer for that, like even when they're doing okay, and you got to consider too the injury bug hitting them hard. That was such a big loss because they were already in sort of a tough spot when they lose Kobe Julian in the portal in the offseason.
And Joe Charles.
They didn't really grab anybody of no portal either, which is interesting because, a few years ago when they win the Sun Belt, they had those guys that were tied to the program or tied to the Lafayette area. They were able to get them in and really made a huge difference for the program. So maybe he's a little bit defensive about, not doing that this time around. But it would be so much better with Hosanna Katinga healthy, but still a far cry from where they were just a couple of years ago, which I think puts anybody on edge when you're a coach to know you're going to take some criticism, and maybe some of it's your fault, maybe some of it's not.
You know what would put you on edge, like as a fan base, and maybe as a coach too, is when you see your team lose to Lamar 74-45. That must be unnerving, don't you think, Tibbs?
I mean, that's old school rivalry stuff. But in this day and age, that should definitely be a game that is an easier win. I'll never say that a game is going to be an easy win because any given day, I really feel that anybody can beat anybody. And we've seen that in the past, whether it be that Stephen F. goes in and crashes Duke's parade in Cameron Indoor. How many 16 seeds, 2 now, that have beaten 1s, 15s over 2s in the tournament. It can happen. But it still shouldn't be happening the way it has been for that team.
Well, yeah, I think that's what I'm saying. I mean, I don't begrudge Lamar winning that game. Lamar's always had a solid program, and they can beat anybody at any time. But by that amount of points, and with the Cajuns only scoring 45 points, that's a little shocking to see. So anyway, yeah, kind of a wild time. Shay, speaking of that sort of end of the pendulum, what is going on with the Monarchs, man? This is a basketball school. What is happening?
It is, and I think you probably at least want to chalk it up to, first-year coach just trying to get his team and program established. And, they added some guys in the portal who I think help. I think they're going to get better, but, it's first-year head coach, like not just a first year at ODU coach. This is his first time coaching as a head coach at the Division I level. He's been a long time. He's been an assistant. He also is a very successful high school coach. But, so for Jones, I think, you just got to hope if you're ODU that it's just going to take some time to establish what he wants to do there, because it's bad. And it's bad for the Sun Belt, just that, you got 4 teams that are really far down there. And you want to talk about Bob Marlin getting feisty. I think that probably adds to it too, is, now, not that long ago, 10 years ago, we didn't have easy access to rankings 1 through 364.
Yeah.
So now, you got your fans not only saying you've only won 2 games, but you're also 350 whatever in the country. That's terrible. So that I think adds to the stress for everybody. But
yeah, those are SWAC numbers right there. Let me ask you that.
Whacktastic.
Yes. Let me ask you guys this, just for chuckles and giggles, as we head into conference play. We have 5 teams in the Sun Belt right now that have a losing record. 9 teams with sort of either a winning record, or in the case of Coastal Carolina, they're tied at 5-5. Even Stephen at 500. You got Georgia State, Southern Miss, ULM, Old Dominion, and Louisiana. These 5 schools. Of those 5 schools, Tibbs, which one has a shot at kind of turning things around and being at least some kind of player in conference?
I hate to say it, but it's definitely not going to be the Warhawks. They're thin. They have point guard issues to really have the quarterback on the floor. I really think out of those teams that can kind of flip the script, I'm going to go with Southern Miss. Yeah. Because while they don't have an Austin Crowley like they've had in the past, I feel like they have the confidence. They have enough guys that have returned that they know how to turn it around and how to get back into the win column.
Yeah, that could be. They seem to have enough assets. They didn't look too bad against Ole Miss, at least for a while. And then things started falling apart. I kind of like Georgia State, guys. I don't know why. I just felt like they recruited pretty well over the offseason. And maybe it's taken them a while for them to gel. I think they get Auburn tomorrow, which is a tough task. I guess we'll see from there. What do you think, Shane? Of these 5 teams, who has a chance of actually sort of pulling themselves out of the basement?
I was going to say Southern Miss too. Okay. I think they're missing a big guy. They don't really have a true big guy in the middle. And then there's the whole Andre Curbelo.
Yeah.
I think he's still suspended indefinitely right now. I don't know if they're going to get him back. And maybe the most talented player in the entire Sun Belt.
Yeah. I remember when he came online last year, he really delivered a spark. Why is he suspended? What's going on?
They didn't really say why, but I think it's a matter of they either have to, get him back in the fold and have him play to his capability, or maybe just, one of those situations where if a guy is trouble, that you're able to move on and kind of figure it out without him. But I think they've got, 3, 4, 5 guys who can really play, but they have some real holes. So I don't necessarily see them totally turning it around, but I see them being a disruptor, in one of those teams that ends up shaking up the top of the league because they win a couple games against really good teams.
So earlier tonight, or at least I guess it'll be tomorrow when we hear this podcast, but South Alabama has lost to TCU, had a pretty hard-fought game against Big 12's TCU. You look at the Sun Belt standings as it is, they don't really count as standings really when it's out of conference, but in my opinion. But you see, kind of a lot of the usual suspects up there. Everyone from Troy down there at 6-4. You got Texas at 7, Texas State at 7-4. James Madison's still in there at 6-4. Is this Sun Belt as bad as it seems? The net says yes, but is it really? Is it bad, Tibbs? Is this just going to be a bad season for the Sun Belt, or does it just seem that way at the moment?
No, I think it's another bad year of basketball. And while the postseason tournament fix is there to protect those top 4 seeds in hopes that the best teams are represented and available to try to get into the 2 teams into the postseason, it's still going to be an ugly pillow fight until that point and all the way through the season. I just don't see, outside of Arkansas State, I don't see who those other 3 teams are to kind of make it into that Final Four bracket. I feel like it's really Arkansas State and then the 13 Dwarves.
Yeah, this is how dumb I am about basketball. I looked at recruiting and at the teams coming in this year and thought that the Sun Belt looked like they're in really good shape. I was like, wow, there's some really good guys. I know we've lost some good guys, but it looks like there's some really cool guys coming in. And that has not come into fruition, Metlin. Do you kind of feel the same way with Tibbs, that this is just going to be a down year for the Sun Belt? Which I don't think last year, by the way, was that bad. We just couldn't get that second team in.
Yeah, not as strongly as Tibbs, but it's a step back because, you go 2 years ago, you had 4 teams in the top 100, and none of them were really like at large conversation type teams, but 4 teams in the top 100 is pretty good. And then last year, JMU and App State kind of separated themselves, but they were 2 really good teams to talk about. Legitimately good teams. And then this year, it's just, a rough start. I think there's so much turnover. You got to start fast with the net system. Yes. And you can really kind of just play your way out of it in November. And that's tough when a lot of these teams are completely turning over their rosters. So I don't know. Anybody else like kind of a Ken Palm devotee pay attention to that? Because like, I don't necessarily go real heavy into like his rankings, especially early in the season.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know that's the way. It's a fun guide to kind of who's good and who's not, but like not live and die by that. But what his numbers are really good at is predicting things. Ooh. Like his score predictions are usually pretty damn close. His like prediction of what records are going to end up being are usually pretty close. And he's got it kind of looking like a real tight race at the top with, Arkansas State. His prediction model has Arkansas State winning by a game.
Yeah.
And then a 3-way tie with Troy, JMU, and Texas State, which seems kind of reasonable to me. And so I think it could at least be fun with the way they set up the tournament and those top 2 seeds being such an advantage. If that's the way it plays out, I think you could at least have a really fun race at the top. It's really, really bad at the bottom, like we talked about. With so many of those teams, like sub 300, but I think it could at least be an interesting race at the top. And it's not going to be anybody fighting for an at-large, but I think it at least be like decent.
If you're a facilities manager at a university, students rely on the cafeteria for breakfast, lunch, dinner, and the occasional late-night snack. So when a dishwasher breaks down and dirty plates pile up, the mess hall can turn messy in the blink of an eye. Enter Grainger. With over 1 million industrial-grade products and fast delivery, the product you need now is never far away. So you can turn that dishwasher back into a lean, clean washing machine. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Basketball to watch as we get a little farther into the season.
Yeah, I think that you're right. That top quarter or maybe that top third is going to be a real fun like sub-league to watch. And the rest of it's not going to be that great.
Yeah.
But I guess
it's going to be like the team that goes to Louisiana and loses to the 350 ranked team in the country, and it's going to happen. Somebody's going to lose to a really bad team, and it's going to like just destroy them.
Yeah, there's going to be some hurt feelings, and maybe Coach Marlin will be a little happier that day.
But you lose league games, and it's going to be tough because somebody at the top of the league is probably going to lose to a team that looks really bad on paper.
Tibbs, we have new football coaches in the Sun Belt.
We do. The Huff Shuffle has left Huntington, and
Yeah,
headed
where did he
to
go?
Hattiesburg.
Wow. Like, you know what was funny is that he kept denying those rumors for so long. I'm coaching here. I don't know where you're getting that. How dare you even mention it? Last I heard, I was getting my paycheck from Marshall. There he is. That's
But
other.
And then he's
even
like,
as the dust,
did you see that at the press conference at Southern Miss?
Yeah.
Like, the students aren't here because I'm a week late.
Yeah, he did say that. That was pretty good from Huff.
as the dust settles on that, is that just that much weirder that he went from Sun Belt Conference champs to now being the team that was DFL in the Sun Belt, DFL in college football, and is essentially going to bring his entire Marshall roster with him to Hattiesburg?
You know what that tells me is that his relationship with Marshall was not good at the end. Even with the championship, it seems to me that he was ready to go and possibly to a place where he can have his revenge. And when there's no other place better to do that than bottom-dwelling Southern Miss right now, that has a history of winning, that has probably resources that it could tap into, that has the recruiting base. I mean, Huff can succeed at Southern Miss, where for some reason Will Hall couldn't. But other than that, it's kind of a mystery to me, Metlin, why he took the job.
Yeah, I think you kind of hit on it. He and Marshall didn't want to be together anymore. That was almost like a divorce.
Yeah,
like
not a nice one.
Yeah, but you take it does look weird on paper when first place team with 10 wins and the last place team with 1, and you're trying to figure out why you take that job. But at the same time, historically, Marshall and Southern Miss are very similar programs with the success they've had historically. I can see why he would say, like, well, if I win at Marshall, I can take my guys down to Hattiesburg and win there and then see what happens. But
now he did lose his offensive line coach. Apparently he's going to like Oklahoma or Oklahoma State or something like that. But other than that, brings his whole crew. Tibbs, who did Marshall get to replace the legendary Coach Huff?
Tony Gibson is the new head coach, OC from NC State. So that will be a interesting matchup when they play against Coastal Carolina with Tim Beck,
That's what I was
former DC.
Well, is he bringing Grayson McCall with him too?
I've seen a big call for Grayson to start coaching quarterbacks, especially after McKenzie got the job at Central Florida.
Yeah, that's what a time for old legends to come back to their campuses and get jobs. Yeah, that's really cool. All right, so Tony Gibson, we don't know much about the guy except he was OC for the Wolfpack, right? Metlin, you know anything about this guy?
the dude loves West Virginia and is really happy to be back there. I think that's the thing for them right now is, maybe Huff was looking for his next opportunity as soon as he got there. And Gibson's at least saying the right things. He says he wants to be there forever because, he's a West Virginia guy he says he's not looking to ever go anywhere else. So we'll see how that plays out. Sometimes guys end up with 5 million reasons to go somewhere else, but
yeah. And sometimes
he's saying the things that Marshall fans want to hear right now.
And sometimes with the Sun Belt, you kind of want a guy who's really hungry and is like, yeah, you like hearing, I want to be here forever. But at the same time, you're like, I wouldn't mind a guy who really wants to build his reputation and with his eyes set for something bigger. Am I stupid for thinking that?
No, he was making more money as an assistant at NC State. He's getting $1 million a year you can live pretty damn well in Huntington on $1 million a year, but he was making 1.5 at NC State. And, so that also tells me, okay, this is a guy who wants to be a head coach and he's not going to leave to go be the defensive coordinator at Alabama just because that pays a little bit more. Like,
who would do that?
I don't know. Have you ever heard of such a thing? But and I think that's important for Sunbelt too. Like right now is when you're interviewing people, you got to find people who want to be a head coach and not necessarily just want the biggest salary they can get, because you're not going to be able to match what the Big Ten pays even for a coordinator or a really high level assistant job.
Good point. Good point. So he was, Marshall and Southern Miss weren't the only ones welcoming new blood into their program. Tibbs, what's going on in Appalachian State?
As we discussed last week with Netland, Dow Logan's the new head coach of the Mountaineers, the shortest coach in the Sun Belt, makes his way from South Carolina to Boone.
And he's a big round guy too. So he's like a bowling ball out there on the sideline, right? Just a big, lovable, huggable guy. Yeah, what has been Metlin, I know that you're very close to the fans of Appalachian State. What's your fingers, if your fingers are on the pulse, what are you sensing from that hire?
I didn't sense a super strong reaction either way, which is, kind of interesting in itself, because, they love their team. They love their program. And, I think they even loved Sean Clark.
Yeah.
Even in his struggles, because he's an app guy. Maybe it was time. Maybe they all knew it was time to move on. But, I think they're excited to some degree, but maybe it's also a little bit wait and see, because, it is sort of a new era in college football. And, they struggled for the first time, really. And, it wasn't, I don't think I got the sense of the same necessarily level of excitement. Not that there's disappointment necessarily, but there's a excitement at Marshall. They were really excited about their hire. And I don't necessarily know if I picked up on that. Absence can correct me if I'm wrong nicely, please. Because this is just, basically me
don't hurt Metlin
media. But I didn't pick up necessarily on the same level of excitement for this hire. And like I said, not disappointment either, but maybe taking a wait and see approach.
Yeah, Metlin, I got kind of the same vibe, and even a little bit of a negative vibe from some guys in terms of they're looking, well, is South Carolina really an offensive powerhouse? I mean, did we get a guy that's really going to jumpstart our offense, or did we? Yeah, there didn't seem to be just a lot of, wow, we got our guy. It was more like, this is the guy we're going with. Okay, Tibbs, did you feel that way?
Yeah, but you got to remember, the last time they hired a coach, it was one of us, right? It was Sean Clark. He played here. He's one of us.
Mm-hmm.
When you don't have somebody that you hire from within the family, so to say, it sometimes isn't the most exciting hire that you could make.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what? Sometimes that sort of boring hire turns out all right. I thought, well, Sean Elliott, he ended up moving on, but I thought that was like a crazy bad hire. And it turned out he did some pretty good things for Georgia State, and I thought Clay Helton was a flashy hire. I didn't think it was a great hire, but it's turned out all right. So it's really hard to kind of gauge these things. I thought Terry Bowden was a great hire, and it didn't really work out. But yeah, you never know. You never know what's going to be good and what's going to be bad.
Thanks, Rich Rod.
And maybe it's tougher when it's a coordinator too. You're getting a Power 5 assistant, because you really only have a limited number of things you can kind of point to on their resume. You go hire like you said, like a Clay Helton, and things didn't work out. But he's been USC's coach, and or you hire the up and coming FCS guy, and you can at least say look at all these games he won.
He knows how to win.
Maybe it's a little harder to pinpoint what it is you're excited about when it's a kind of relatively unknown assistant.
Yeah, I think when Georgia State hired Del McGee, right? It was like, well, he's from Georgia, and those guys just won a national championship, so the championship ways are going to just rub off of him naturally.
Yeah, and if he can recruit Atlanta, then yeah.
You get South Carolina, you're like, okay. Kind of middle of the pack, lower the pack SEC. I don't know. Yeah. So I don't know.
Is it too late for the coaching carousel to keep spinning, though, with already rumors that Bryant Vincent could be on the move to Jacksonville State? Is it too late in the game for that?
I don't know if it's too late. I mean,
No.
I would think if that was the move they were going to make, like they could have made that quickly. But Wake Forest also opens up today, and that's in the footprint of the Sun Belt. Like I don't know who they're going to look at, what kind of candidates they're looking at there. But I mean, it wouldn't shock me if some names come up.
I tell you what, I was surprised by. It's a little bit in the same conversation that we're having here about the Warhawks and Bryant Vincent. I was stunned how much support the Warhawks had for taking the place of Marshall when Marshall had to leave their bowl game. There were so many people on social medias saying, well, that belongs to the Warhawks. The Warhawks need to go. Bryant Vincent has that team, humming. They deserve the shot. I feel like there's a lot of support inside and out for Bryant Vincent, and that could be a good thing or a bad thing, especially when you want to keep your coach.
Yeah, and let's jump into that. Marshall bailing on the Independence Bowl. I get it that they had essentially their entire roster hit the portal or say they're done with football, whether it be forever or the year. So Marshall would not have had a team to be able to field in that game against Army. I get that. The lingering question I have on that, though, does that come back and bite or haunt the Sun Belt, knowing that we only have 5 guaranteed bowl slots for those 6th, 7th, and 8th teams that are trying to get into bowls in years coming up?
Compounding that situation is we're not just talking about like some 6-6 Sun Belt team. This is the Sun Belt champion. This is like going to be a marquee matchup, Marshall versus Army. This is going to be the sort of spotlight game for the Sun Belt. And it was going to be a good game for Army as well. And to have Marshall just be like, hey, we can't field the team. I mean, to me, what that tells me, and Shane, I'd love to hear your opinion on this because you probably got your ear down to the ground of what the media people are saying here. But it seems to me that this could really lay a foundation for teams of all stripes to make this decision. They lose their head coach, and then they lose a bunch of guys to the portal, and they, who's ever left looks around, goes, what's the point of playing this game? There's no point. The guys that got us here aren't here anymore. What is the point? What are the fans even rooting for if the guys that got them to this point won't be on that field? Shane, what are you hearing?
As far as that goes, I'm not really sure. I think probably what we'll see a lot more of is like anybody who has like an NIL deal, like the contract's probably going to say you got to play the bowl game, like just to kind of prevent some of this from happening. Like, even if it's a small thing, like, not that like anybody, Marshall's got anybody like making a ton of money, but they probably had guys with some sort of like deal with the collective. And I think, you almost got to put that in there at this point. Like if you want your check, like you got to play in a bowl game if you're healthy. But it's tough though. Like, did you read the press release from the Sun Belt when they kind of made their official announcement that it was going to happen? Like, you don't see a press release that basically is like, we're so sorry very often. And it was like they were apologizing to the sponsors, to the Independence Bowl, to Army, to the American Athletic Conference. It was apologies all around. And it's because getting more and better bowl tie-ins has been, I don't know if it's the number one priority for Keith Gill the last few years, but it's up there. It
was up there.
Yeah. He really wanted to get to where they had, 7 or 8 bowl tie-ins and that they were better games too. And this doesn't help.
No,
it
doesn't help.
Yeah, it doesn't help at all.
What surprised me, Tibbs, was that at first there was a lot of sympathy for Marshall. It's like, oh man, yeah, NIL and transfer portal, it's killing the game. And look what it did to Marshall. And then did you notice that the opinion kind of shifted from poor Marshall to marshal those sons of bitches. Did you notice that, Tibbs?
I think that's because the money started talking, right? This isn't just the corporate sponsors involved in these bowl games. These are the local hotels, the local restaurants, the people that, their only way of making money is like the state fair that's there for their little craft booth and the Independence Bowl. So I think that once people started realizing that it was more than just kind of the corporate America, that they were seeing that this great matchup that was going to put a great big spotlight on the Independence Bowl on Shreveport was going to have some stank on it, was going to have maybe a little less brightness to it over kind of a hodgepodge matchup of a 5-7 Louisiana Tech team and this great Army team. And I'll say this also, Louisiana Tech was picked over the pecking order based on APR. They were 3 points higher than ULM. But even if the shoes had been on the other foot and ULM had 4 points and would have been the selection, I don't know if I would have wanted ULM to take this because you kind of didn't earn that bowl berth because you're kind of backdooring it in. Secondly, I don't think that ULM would have fielded a team that we would have expected to see because you wouldn't have had Ahmad Hardy, who's already off into the portal and trying to make his 6-7 figure paycheck. You don't have your center of Cam Miller, who's now with Dion in Colorado. You don't have Carlin Vigors, who's already declared for the draft. You don't have Carl Glass, who's declared for the draft already. You don't have Devin Wells, your one receiver that you had, who's declared for the draft. So this would have been a shell of a Warhawk team if they could have even done it. But the other advantage is that Tech is on the quarter system. They're still going strong in the school, the academic calendar, as opposed to ULM, Old Dominion, or any of the other teams that would have been up for it. They would have had to kind of send the smoke signals to rally the troops and get everybody back on campus to try and pull this off.
Well, that was another point too, because you go 5-7, right? And you kind of pack up at the end of the year, right? You're like, hey, good season, guys. Everybody clean out your lockers and get ready for exams and Christmas vacation and all this jazz. And then suddenly you're trying to get people back onto campus and back on the football field to get ready for Army. I mean, who wants that gig? That sounds bad.
And I think people don't realize that too. Like when these games are announced, I mean, even before they're actually announced, the minute they know where they're going, the staffs of these teams are there. The director of operations and all their people and everything are putting so much work into getting those teams there. And the traveling parties and everything else, and booking all the hotels and the sites for the pep rallies and practice field, everything. Like, there's a lot of work, and you don't just necessarily be like, "Well, we could go play next week."
Yeah, we could just load up the bus. And
I mean, there's a lot. Yeah, it's a lot more than just loading up the bus. Even if you have the players to go play, it's a lot more than that. Like to go to a bowl game, that starts really the minute they find out where they're going. Their people are booking stuff and figuring out how you're feeding all your guys while they're there and everything else, and who's in the traveling party and it's a lot of work.
Yeah, and you got to think the fans of Army expecting to have this, great matchup with Marshall, which, if correct me if I'm wrong, Tibbs, Marshall and West Point not too far away from each other, right?
No, they're a good clip, Jeremy.
Yeah.
Okay, my bad. Well, I thought there might be some regional kind of thing there too, but it would have been nice. Okay, well, I went to Arkansas State. Geography is not my thing, but I will say that it's bad news for Army too. I feel bad for those guys, thinking they're going to get this big, bowl game for themselves, and now they get Louisiana Tech. So that's just. And wait, isn't Louisiana Tech in the same? No. They're. I forgot Louisiana Tech is still in Conference USA. Bozos. Anyway, So yeah, ugly situation.
That's all we have.
I was
for this
hoping you would rescue us, Tibbs.
week's episode as we stare aimlessly and awkwardly at Jeremy, as always.
Yeah.
Esteemed Heisman Trophy voter Shane Netlin. Yes, that's going to stick now.
I love it.
Please, give us your wise plug, promo, and parting shot.
I don't have much other than to say like happy holidays, Merry Christmas, all that to everybody. Like, didn't come up with a witty or interesting parting shot this time, but I'm not going to go straight plug either, so you guys can get off my back about that. But just hopefully everybody enjoys. If you have some time off, enjoy that. Enjoy seeing family. Enjoy opening a few presents and stuff. And yeah.
Yeah. As for me, I have a parting shot, but it's more like an interactive parting shot, kind of where I just start a conversation with you guys. It's not me ranting. It's just me kind of.
I don't believe it already.
I'm sharing this moment with my two friends, Tibbs and Shane Netlin. Everybody talks about the Christmas movies, the holiday movies they love. They'll talk about, we always watch Christmas Vacation, for instance. Tibbs, is there a Christmas movie you hate? Like people love it and you can't stand it? And explain why.
I've never been a fan of what's the classic black and white movie, and that should tell you everything you need to know about it. It's long.
It's a Wonderful Life.
It's in black and white.
Yeah.
I can't relate to it. I hope it never comes on again.
It's a Wonderful Life. That's what you're saying.
That is correct.
Okay. I love that movie, but okay, to each his own. Shane, what timeless classic do you want to take a big holiday poop on?
I don't like too many Christmas movies. I hate Christmas music too. And I just was not a Grinch a minute ago, but I don't like that part of the holidays. I don't like Christmas movies that much. My favorite Christmas movies, I don't know which one I want to take a dump on, but my favorite ones are Trading Places, Die Hard, and Gremlins, which my family likes to inform me are not actually Christmas movies. So
you can't think of one timeless classic that you can't stand.
Come
on.
Give me a list. I'm trying to think of which Christmas movies.
Well, I'll tell you which one I can't stand, and maybe you can join me in not liking it. And it's one that everybody loves. They quote it endlessly. And I can't stand it because even the quotes get on my nerves. Like anytime somebody says fragile at me, I want to kick them in the nuts. And that's A Christmas Story. It's not a good movie. It is a cornball, poorly produced, didactic, crap-ass movie that TNT and Turner Classic Movies play over and over and over and over again. And if I hear somebody say to me, "You'll shoot your eye out, kid," I am going to go ballistic on them because it's not clever. It's nothing. It's a stupid ass movie.
I do have one.
Okay.
And it's not the worst Christmas movie by any means, but Christmas Vacation is the worst vacation movie. And people act like it's the best. And so that's mine.
I love, Tibbs, you both picked movies I like a lot. So I love Christmas Vacation. I don't like the quotes out Christmas Vacation. I hate when people quote Cousin Eddie to me. I want Cousin Eddie to tell me the quote. I don't need you to tell me the quote. Shitter's full, Tibbs. I get that thrown at me all the time. I'm like, yeah, I get it. You're quoting me Christmas Vacation. Please stop it. But not liking It's a Wonderful Life? Come on, Tibbs. What, do you have a heart? Is there anything but coal inside of your chest? Come on.
Jeremy, we're going to end the show.
Okay.
And I triple dare you on that.
No!
If you're a maintenance supervisor for a commercial property, you've had to deal with everything from leaky faucets to flickering light bulbs. But nothing's worse than that ancient boiler that's lived in the building since the day it was built, 50 years ago. It's enough to make anyone lose their cool. That's where Grainger comes in. With industrial-grade products and dependable fast delivery, Grainger can help with any challenge, from worn-out components to everyday necessities. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.